Voluntary vax CSR, not mandatory. The Confederation of Indian Industry CII has reportedly pitched for an additional 1% corporate social responsibility levy in the upcoming budget to encourage companies to spend on providing COVID booster shots. The purpose is to supplement GOI's, yani Government of India's efforts to provide the precautionary dose. This is fine, but how much companies want to spend on CSR must be left entirely to them. Today, companies are mandated to spend 2% of their average profit over the past 3 years on CSR. After the outbreak of the pandemic, Government of India allowed companies engaged in R&D, means research and development of new vaccines and drugs to include such expenditure as CSR. Money spent on building infrastructures such as makeshift COVID facilities also qualifies. Rightly, companies can count vaccination for persons other than employees and other families too as CSR spends. Reportedly, 40% of the spending over the last 2 years has been on account of companies counting COVID relief measures as CSR. That companies are working in tandem with the center and states for COVID relief measures is reassuring, but mandated CSR can be wasteful. Many entities try to do same job, leading to inefficiencies, including lack of economies of scale. It should be scrapped. In any case, every company spreads the collective good by creating jobs and incomes and bettering the conditions of human existence through products and services. Some advance for frontiers of knowledge and convert society's pooled savings into productive capital. Companies effective at CSR activities would do these by themselves. Even now, investment that factors environmental, social, and governance (ESG) practices creates an incentive for many companies to carry out voluntary CSR. It is less wasteful than mandated CSR. Now, an article of the Times of India, the heading is Court says it again. In an order that essentially urges central agencies to investigate cases expeditiously, the Supreme Court has granted bail to an alleged cattle smuggler behind bars of 14 months, while CBI, yani Central Bureau of Investigation, took its own time probing a conspiracy angle after filing a supplementary charge sheet in February 2021. CBI's attempt to foreground national security by alleging the anomal hawk was the kingpin of a cross-border cattle smuggling racket involving BSF, yani Border Security Force, Customs, and Bengal Police. Officials fell flat with SC asking why 14 months of hawks in incarceration weren't enough to provide the conspiracy, having already undergo a sixth of the maximum term of 7 years imprisonment in the case. Any further incarceration would have undermined to the constitutional principle of innocent until proven guilty. Routinely investigating agencies seeks extension of custody of accused, citing ongoing investigation. But it's for courts to call their bluff. Equally, it is the backlogs in court that keep most accused person behind bars. A net result of dysfunction at the investigating and judicial ends is that a whopping 76% of inmates in Indian prisons are under trials. Contrast this is to the US or UK, where convicts are 76% and 84 respectively of the prison population. Premier agencies like CBI, with a reputation to protect, must be especially mindful of setting the bar high for the state police forces to emulate. It is Government of India's responsibility to fulfill CBI's staffing and forensic investigation needs. A 2020 CBC report reveals nearly 20% of CBI's sanctioned staff strength lying vacant. 20% seats are vacant in CBI. While CBI claims that a high conviction rate of 70%, currently a third of 9,757 cases pending trial out of the pre 2011 vintage, plus 1,117 cases were pending investigation as of 2020. This data puts into perspective the 14,000 convictions and acquittals between 2000 and 2020. The report card doesn't speak well either for the CBI or for the judiciary. Now, this article is very much important for this GS paper one, migration related questions in geography or in society. Targeting 75%. With migration on the rise, EC must evolve strategies so that migrants don't lose out on voting day. Prime Minister Narendra Modi asking citizens and party workers to achieve 75% voter turnout in the upcoming elections is a target that can build on already stupendous work done by Election Commission to expand voting rights. On National Voting Day, Chief Election Commissioner Sushil Chandra and India now has over 95 crore voters, a figure that there are 95 crore voters in India this time, a figure that trumps voter count in the second largest democracy, the US, several times over. Much credit should go here to the farmers of the constitution who weighed in favor of a central independent constitutional body to oversee elections. This works better than the US model of decentralized electoral processes that is showing chaos and blatantly undemocratic practices like voter suppression. Far from disenfranchising voters, India has moved in the direction of easier enrollment and improved access to voting for citizens at the margins, thanks to EC getting institutional support to largely deliver on its mandate. The Commission's ability to self correct, like the crackdown on large election rallies held earlier in blatant disregard for the pandemic, is just as praiseworthy. An equally impressive achievement for EC, which paid special attention to regions with low women enrollment, is that new female voters have grown at a faster rate, 5%, than male voters, 3.6%. Their enthusiasm to control is also reflecting in increased female participation in elections. Bihar in 2020 witnessed 60% of eligible women turning out to vote against 54% of men. Not surprisingly, women voters are being aggressively voted now by political parties. However, urban voters aren't pulling their weight enough despite India's rapidly urbanizing population from 28% in 2001 to 37% in 2011 and projected to be 60% by 2050. Voting percentage in 2017 Mumbai BMC and Delhi MCD elections were low at 52 and 54% respectively. In 2014 Lok Sabha polls Chennai's turned out for 61% against Tamil Nadu's 73%. Bengaluru's was 48% against Karnataka's 58% and Hyderabad's 52% against undivided Andhra Pradesh 72%. Means you can see here the voting participation, yeah, voters participation is very low in urban sites, but all in rural side it is increasing. uh, Consequently, politicians tend to sometimes neglect big urban concerns: public transport, air pollution, waste management, and vector borne diseases. And the perversity is that cities are major revenue spinners. A 2017 EPW paper by CSD Sanjay Kumar and Saurabdeep Banerjee argues via survey data from Delhi elections that it is recent migrants to cities who aren't turning out to vote, with internal migration increasing and turnout data from Bihar, males, and Delhi indicating that migrants are losing their votes at both source and destination. This then is the next frontier for EC.